Hey everyone, today's overview and review video is on Familiar Tales. If you're new here, this is Two Sheep, One Wheat. My name is Krissy, and I review board games. If there's any games that you'd like for me to review, please let me know what that is down in the comments below. Like this video, and of course, subscribe to the channel. And if you enjoy this type of content, we have added members to the channel where we live stream us learning new games. So that link is down in the description below as well. So in Familiar Tales, we are going on an adventure. There are 4 different characters that you can be depending on how many players that you are playing with, but all 4 characters are going to be used during this game. And a little bit of a spoiler in this video if you have not played already, because this is a campaign game. I won't go into too much detail, more or less just kind of how you play the game and what the app is all about. So let's go ahead and take a look at the table and see what setup and what kind of components come in this game. So one of the main things for setup here is the location book. You kind of need this to be able to play the game. Also, the game does come with minis, so we have those already set out onto the board. And like I was saying, it doesn't matter how many players you're playing, all of the characters are going to be placed out onto the board, which I have set up in the starting location for Field of Dreams. So once you figured out who's going to play which character, you also need the dashboard for that character and their character card to play the game. And we also have some artifact cards and some item cards down here that you're going to be able to collect throughout the game. We also have our resources, which come in this nice little container here. To collect those resources, you're going to be able to move around the different locations that you're at. You're going to be able to do a skill check to be able to forage for those items. And now a lot of them you're going to be able to use to help bring the baby's discontent down. And that is on this board right here. Depending on what you do through your travels is going to either bring up the discontent of the baby or bring it down. And the way that you can use the resources to be able to bring it up is by doing some of these skill checks here, or feeding the baby or clothing the baby. Now throughout the journey, depending on what you're going to do, is also going to give you some misfortune. Now in this game, you're trying to go throughout your adventure with as little misfortune as possible, because bad things happen with this misfortune. So a bit of setup for the locations. Each different one is going to have all of the information in the book as well. This one is on the side of here. So it's going to tell you starting up where you're going to be placing all of your familiars. It's going to tell you where you're going to be able to place the enemies, how many they are, which ones. These ones are unsavories. And then it's going to tell you the unsavories here, what their health is, how much they can move, all of their information's on here, and their health here. It'll also tell you for different locations on the board what happens if enemies are on the space, or if anything needs to happen in that specific location, like barring up doors or killing enemies. Anything that you need to know within the location is going to be written down. So this one here, just as an example, it says that if there's no enemies on this location right here at the end of a familiar's turn, if all the familiars and the baby are on this spot, you may leave the location instead of pressing end turn to move on to another familiar's turn. And that basically just means that you've made your way through the location. That was the end goal for you. And as long as that you've done that, then you'll be able to move on to the next location. So this is an app-driven game. You need to have the app to actually even be able to play this game. Now you can learn how to play through the rulebook, or you can use the app, which comes on an app on your phone, or you can download it on the computer. We do have a playthrough on this game. We did a live playthrough. So if that is something that you're interested in and seeing how the game actually plays, then I can link this up here. And I will link it down in the description as well if you want to learn how to play first before you actually go on and watch how it plays. So anytime that you move into a location, there's going to be a few different things in that location that you're going to find. There's either going to be a number in there, which you enter into the app. It'll read to you the scenario that's going to happen. It's going to give you some of the information if you're collecting any reward, or if there's any discontent or misfortune that you need to collect. It'll also tell you if there's any specific item cards or artifact cards that you're going to be able to collect. There's also other locations that you can forage for, so either wood, clothing, food, all the different resources that you're going to be able to forage. Not all of them are going to be on the exact same map. You'll need to move through a few of the locations, different maps, to be able to collect all of the resources that you're going to need. There's also other locations where the enemies are going to pop up, and again, all of the app is going to go through everything. It'll tell you exactly where they pop up, it'll tell you how many need to pop up, and that is for throughout the game. Setup is completely in the location book. It'll tell you everything for setup. So along our journey, we're going to be bringing this baby. There are 3 different eras in the game. We are in era 1, it's going to start off as a baby, and then era 2, a toddler, and era 3, an adult. So right now, basically, we don't exactly know what we're doing with this baby. We know that we need to bring it along on our journey and get it to a safe space. So now for the actions during this turn, we're basically moving through all of the maps and everything, and we're trying to go on through the chapters to get to the safe location to drop the baby off. So now during our turn, I'll go through all of the actions that we can do during our turn to help keep this baby safe. So the first action that we can do is move, which is something that we're going to need to do to get through the map here. So I am playing Flicker here as the character that I'm going to show what all the actions are here. So we have our character card here, we have basically our health, and we have our energy that we collect. So basically you start your turn with 5 cards in your hand. That actions are part of phase 1. Phase 2 is redrawing. So you're always going to start your turn with 5 cards in your hand. So these are the cards that I have. Now, basically this game, you're just doing a bunch of skill tests. Moving is kind of a free action. But you still need to discard one of your cards here, and all of the move actions are going to be down here at the bottom. All of my cards that I have here are worth 2 moves each. Now, each character is going to have a different ability. Mine, Flicker, can fly through single solid white lines, and that just counts as a regular movement for her. So moving, you would need to discard one of these cards to be able to move. Flicker can go here, you can stop if you want, you can use up to the 2 movements, you can enter this into the app, that'll read you a story, and you get a little bit more of a feel for what type of scenario that we are playing. If you didn't want to listen to that, someone else can. We can move over in here. So as many times as you want to move, you can just keep discarding cards for that and moving into different locations. If you wanted to forage, now this is a skill check. Forage, you need to have a 3 or higher for an insight skill check here. So depending how many you want, because we're always going to be needing to roll this die here. So let's just say it is 3. I'm going to put down this wand right here because it's a 3 for the insight, and then you need to roll the die. Now this die has danger. Danger is something else that is in the app. If it gets too high, it's going to trigger an enemy attack. So anytime that you do something within the game, it will trigger something. So like this one, a danger, it is going to rise that up, and if the baby's discontent is at a certain level, then something will happen throughout the game. And that is exactly when the enemies get to move, when they get to do their attack, is whenever that your danger level gets too high and the discontent of the baby is also very high. So that would increase that and would cause something to happen throughout the game. But even if you did roll this, you'd still be able to pass the skill check because we still did have 3. So you'd be able to forage over this, and then you would be able to take the food and place it onto your character card like that for you to be able to use throughout the game, or to be able to play, to be able to feed the baby whenever the discontent for the baby goes down. Now you can basically keep going and using your turn until you have no more cards in your hand and until all of your power is gone because you've purchased some cards. Now these other icons here are for different skill checks. Whenever you are defending yourself from a battle, you can go ahead and use your resilience, which is the shield. Or if you are like this one here, it's a ranged weapon. This one here would use the agility as a skill check. And then if you are someone who has a melee attack that isn't ranged, then you can go ahead and use your defeat. So depending on what type of action that you're doing, you're going to be using different icons for different skill checks. So that basically goes through most of the actions. So we can attack an enemy, whether range or melee attack. We can defend ourselves against the enemy during their turn. And like I was saying, we can forage for some food. Now, whenever we collected this food, we have these tokens here that just cover up the space so that nobody else can go on there, because obviously you can only forage once. Then if you have the ingredients or resources, and if you have enough power, then you can collect some of these cards here. Now these story and bond cards here, these are a little bit different. There is a sheet that goes with this game so that you can kind of keep track of everything that's going on. And it looks like this, and you can kind of cross that off, and it goes through a story mode telling you what is going on, what's happening. And now these only trigger once all of the enemies are completely off of the location that you're on. And then, so once that happens, everything is all by numbers, and you can just put that into the app and it'll read everything to you, whether it gives you some kind of benefit or gives you power or life or resources or gives you some of these cards. The app is going to tell you everything that you need to know. And then of course, since we're talking about this is just the journal for era 1. It goes through all of the different ones as well, all the different chapters and the different eras. So within 3 games that we've played, we've been able to get ourselves to chapter 2. The app will tell you when to circle in these, and of course, depending on how you play the game, you're going to be able to take different paths. Another action that you can do is if you're in the same location with another one of the familiars, you can do a trade action. Now, most of the time when something like that is beneficial, it's going to come with some kind of danger. So when you do that, it's going to up your danger by 1. Another thing on these cards, there are icons at the top left corner. Certain things are going to affect these. Now, anything that looks like a card is going to have to do with some of these cards down here. So anytime that you're going to be using some of these, like this one right here, this one uses agility here, so because it's a ranged weapon, and that's what you need to use as a skill check. So this one's here is pretty much saying that anything with a wand as the top of the card, you'll be able to use that as a +1. So say if you use 2 wands that you're going to be using for this type of skill check, then this one here would be 3 agility, but plus the wand would be an extra 1, so it'd actually be 4. So a lot of these cards are going to have to do with other cards that will give you extra for these cards. And then we also have Mountain, which is another one that if you play one of those cards, then it'll give you some kind of benefit. We have these here because we do have a health on here. So anytime that you play a card with a heart on it, you'll be able to collect 1 of your healths back. So if you got into a battle and you lost some of your life, you'll be able to gain it back up to your highest amount that you're able to. And then we have a reroll. So anytime that you're doing a skill check and you have this icon in all of the cards that you have, then if you get maybe a danger or if you get a -2 or something that's not that good on here, you'll be able to reroll and hopefully gain something else a little bit better. Now this die here goes up to a -2. That is the worst that it can be. So if you want to prepare for that and just add extra whenever you're doing your skill check, that's one way to avoid this. And then of course the death, but it does go up to +2 as well. Another icon here is gain a card. Now this one, you would have to gain a fatigue to your discard pile. Now whenever you get this to play it, you can use it for any of these abilities, but this one doesn't go to your discard pile. It goes back to the fatigue deck, but you would have to up your danger by 1. But you would be able to take another card into your hand whenever you take this card. So like I was saying, with a little bit of good, you're probably going to pay for it, and in this case you do get that other card to your hand right away, but you'll have to pay for the danger later on when that card comes back out. And then the last one, Link. Link here is an assist card, so anytime somebody else is doing some kind of skill check or if they're trying to defeat one of the enemies, then you can assist them in that. You don't have to be in the same location as them or anything. You can play that card just as an extra boost to hopefully pass that skill check. And like I was saying, phase 2 is you are all done your turn, you get a discard pile going, and then you get to draw your hand back up to 5 cards. So a few of these tokens here, now you can inflict some of these onto some enemies. So this one right here would be trapped. Basically, you can trap a figure and they can't move. This one right here is badly injured. So this one, basically, if you injure an enemy, instead of only losing 1 life, it would actually lose 2 lives instead. Then we have poisoned here. At the beginning of the figure's turn, it would lose 1 life. And then we have fire. So this one, whenever a familiar becomes on fire, banish any items that they might be equipped with that have the flammable keyword. And at the start of an on fire figure's turn, reduce its life by 1. So either a familiar or an enemy's life. If an on fire character enters into a water space, then the token is removed. So without going into too much detail to not give away too many spoilers for Familiar Tales, that's basically how you play the game. So the app is a huge part in playing the game. It's also a huge part on how to learn the game. We opted not to go through the rule book to learn this game. We use the app to teach us how to play the game. It definitely went into more of telling you what to do not necessarily these are your options, which one do you want to pick. It definitely wanted you to go a certain way, but it kind of a learning game for the very first one. And then once you go on to the second location, then you're kind of on your own a little bit more. You still have to enter in a bunch of different information within the app, what you're doing. You're still putting in a little bit of information, but not nearly as much as the training one. So the training one, when it was teaching you how to play the game, you actually had to even put in what cards that you were playing, because whenever you clicked on which card that you were playing, it would give you a bit of a description on what that card actually did. So if you're playing a card to move, but it had a heart on it, and it would indicate, it would tell you to add a health to it. Now, obviously, you just started playing the game, so you're not actually adding any health to it because you haven't done anything yet. No enemies have attacked you, and you haven't lost any lives yet. But it did come in handy. I did find when we were learning through the app, because it was just telling you what to do, I was still kind of lost through half of the game. But you really kind of pick up after, once you get through the Field of Dreams is what the first scenario is. And once you get past that, I was like, okay, I understand now. I know that I have to play the cards to move. I know that I have to play the cards to do some kind of skill check if I want to forage. And again, all of the information is in the book too. So how much to forage. And then, like I was saying, the location book is going to tell you how to start up the game, like how to set up for the initial game. It's going to tell you where the familiars go. It'll tell you how many enemies are going out, what type of enemies. It does have a picture in here too for which enemy is coming out. So setup wise, to be able to learn the game, it was all pretty easy, and I think I enjoyed it. It was a bit of a different way to learning the game, to go through the app and listening to it talk and everything, instead of just listening to Nick read through the rules and then explaining to me what to actually do. So it was a different way for us to learn the game, but I didn't find it too bad, and it did actually help because I knew what I was doing when we got to the second scenario. It is an easier game. It's a little bit on the lighter side, and it is very family friendly of a type of game. It was actually really easy to play at 2 players. I thought that there was a lot of thinking involved, because at 2 players you're playing 2 different characters. So like I was saying earlier in the video, it doesn't matter how many players that you're playing with, all of the characters are going to come out. So when you play 3 players, 2 players have 1 character each, and then the third one just gets a second one. So at 2 players, you're playing 2 characters, and I found that it was a little bit tricky because you have the cards in your hand for both characters. So one, like the big rock guy, uses mountains to be able to fight. It gives it a little bit more of a benefit whenever you're fighting if you use the mountain cards. But if I was using those cards whenever I had Flicker's turn, then those were cards that I wasn't going to get whenever I was playing the rock guy. So you kind of had to think about it a little bit too, and then of course kind of wanted to keep some links in your hand in case somebody else wants to go and you want to help them out whenever they're doing a skill check, because every different map that you're playing through is going to have some kind of scenario that you need to get past to be able to move on. So like in this case for Field of Dreams, the very first scenario here, you basically have to get to a specific location and you can't have any enemies on there. And then once you get into there, as long as all of the familiars are on that spot with the baby, then you get to move on to the next location. So the very first one is obviously a little bit easier because it's kind of like a training one. So thinking your moves ahead on how much you can move, what you need to forage for, because maybe you want some items. It's just a little bit of a thinkier game to make sure that you want to do well. You want to make sure that the baby is content and you get through, and you really want to get that baby to somewhere safe. And obviously we're rolling some dice here, so there's a bit of luck, and of course if you're going to get the cards in your hand that you want. So again, this game is a little bit of luck, but the worst that you can get on this die, like I was saying, is -2 or a danger. Now danger isn't too bad. There are some cards that'll negate that, so I did end up with 1, and anytime that I played it as the action, then I could take the danger down by 1, which comes in handy. So whenever the baby's discontent is high, and your danger is also high, some extra things happen, and you kind of want to get through the game without getting a lot of misfortune. We ended up getting quite a bit of misfortune. Now, nothing has happened so far yet, but on the sheet, every chapter that you do within the era, you're going to put it in there. So I think it's going to tally it up at the end, and I'm not quite sure what's going to happen. But we have gotten through the first complete chapter 1. We did get pretty far. It was a lot of fun to play through because all the different maps, and they're all different setups. And then you get a bunch of different enemies that are going to come out. It starts adding different scenarios, and it gets like a little bit harder. And then the story gets really good. You start getting into the story, which is really nice. And something else that really adds to the story and almost to the theme too, we do get these minis, which are really nice. We have ours painted, and I love painted minis, especially so with these games. A campaign game, the app is reading you the story, but you're looking at all these characters and you're putting a voice to the characters as well. And we have ours painted. I think that really makes the game too. You can see what they are, the characters on here, like it just adds to the theme. You see the characters on the box. We have ours painted. I really love getting minis painted. I'm glad that we did. And a huge shout out to Tammy who painted these for us. She's over on Instagram under Painting by Accident. So if you get a chance, take a look at her page. She is just doing it because she loves it, and she does a really, really good job. So give her a follow if you're over there checking her page out. So I think theme-wise, it really goes. The characters are there. You can hear the characters talking within the app, which is another huge thing that I love, is that the app reads everything to you, mostly anyway, especially with the story-wise. And then they have voice actors in there, so you can hear who's talking because you can recognize their voice. And I think it's kind of like an immersive theme. Like, I felt like I was there. It's got music in the background. You can hear, like, when it's like thunder crackling, you can hear it all. It's very immersive. I really like it. I think the theme on this one is really, really cool, especially with our minis painted. It just adds that much more. It's really nice to look at. I really enjoy it. And not only the minis really nice, like components for this one too, all of the minis, they're really good. The minis are really good, all of them. And the thing that I really like too about these minis is that they're all different bases too, so that you know it's easy to identify which one's health is going down so that you can take them off of the board, which I really, really like too. And then of course the toddler and the grown-up version of the baby as well. You have those and all the different characters that you're going to be battling throughout the game too. I really enjoyed this die here, and I don't really mind these cardboard punch outs either because of the type of game that it is. So if the character's on fire, you're just going to set it underneath of them. And so I understand. I don't think I would change any of these to an actual, like maybe like a mini type thing or a 3D or wooden pieces or anything. I enjoy these the way that they are just because of what they're for. This as well too is really neat. I think it's a little bit of a pricier game, but I think it's pricier because you're getting all the minis. But I think it's really worth it, especially this too. This actually comes off for the components right here, and then it actually just slides in like this, and then you've got yourself a cover, and then it just fits in the box like this. I thought that was really neat. And then, I mean, I've already talked about the app, but I suppose that's another component to the game that really adds to it. Like I was saying, because of the voice actors, there's you can differentiate which character is talking, which is really nice. So components, yeah, I think they're pretty good in this one. They're pretty good in this one, definitely. And then so artwork, of course, minis aside, because I've already talked about those, and plus they don't come painted, so. Artwork aside for that, the artwork in the book here is really nice too. It has all of them. We haven't gone through too many of these, but like the artwork is just really nice too. You can tell what's going on. It really adds. You can see here all of the different things that's going on. Really, really nice. Really enjoy all the artwork. And it's not too overly, you don't want to add too much. It's not too busy. You can still see the different locations that you're going through. But really nice. I enjoy the artwork. I think all the artwork on the cards here, and of course they are all of the familiars, all the characters and everything on these cards. They are really nice. I love the artwork. It's just a really cute artwork. Downright adorable. for artwork. So some things that I really liked with this game is the time for each of the scenarios and the chapters was really, really good. Nice length, and the app allows you to just completely save everything. It gives you a number at the beginning so that you can just type in the number and that's going to be your game. It's going to start off where you left off and you can just keep going, which is really nice. And of course, the more that you play the game, the faster you're going to be, and you'll be able to cover more of the scenarios because you're doing so good at it. How it plays at 2 players plays really well at 2 players. Be curious to see how it plays at a higher player count. The objectives in the game aren't too hard either. They're pretty easy to be able to get to it because it is a little bit lighter of a game. Really enjoyed that. One thing I will have to say, now I wasn't in control of the app anytime that we did play this game, but I did hear Nick complaining a whole bunch that he accidentally clicked something and it wasn't what we were supposed to click, so he did wish that there was a back button in it. Which I agree, there should be a back button to go back and redo whatever you did just in case, but I feel like maybe, I don't know, maybe they thought that people would go back because they didn't like the answer that they got, so they would go back and redo what it was. But I don't know, a back button would have been nice because there was a couple times where Nick accidentally pressed the wrong thing. I think the child is a really neat thing that with this game. We're playing with the baby right now. I'm curious to see how it progresses into the toddler until the grown-up and see how the game kind of changes because there are 3 different eras and that's what the eras are, baby and then toddler and then grown-up. So I'm curious to keep going with this game, but overall I really enjoyed this game. And I'm excited to play it again. So that is it to the review for Familiar Tales. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will catch you next time.